Welcome to the Universal Dancer podcast with your host Leslie Zare, author of The Alchemy of Dance and the Alchemia Remedies. Coming to you from Cairo, Egypt, the ancient land of Kem. Journey with us to explore sacred dance, the sacred arts, the mystical and the magical. Join a community of like-minded souls seeking to understand the cosmic dance of co-creation through the sacred arts. Come along and expand your mind, ignite your creativity, and explore something new and something old. Welcome to the Universal Dancer podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Zare. And we have another exciting episode for you today, so let me introduce you to my guest. Early in the first decade of her career as a dancer, Mariko Endo concurrently studied Butoh under Akira Kasai, one of the co-founders of the Butoh movement. From 2000 to 2004, she toured throughout Japan and the U.S. with the legendary artistic director Akira. As a dancer and choreographer, Mariko has recently collaborated with international composers and visual artists to produce multimedia performance art. In 2016, at the Garden of the American Museum of Natural History, Mariko performed her original solo piece to the music of the American contemporary composer Derry John Mazzelli's Metal Song. Prior to that, Mariko had choreographed and danced to Maltese composer Mariella C. Cordina's Gigantilla at Symphony Space. In 2017, as an experienced educator of at-risk children, Mariko worked with a group of these youngsters to produce the documentary dance film Mask Task, directed by Los Angeles-based filmmaker Josephine Decker. In October 2018, Mariko performed her original solo Butoh piece to Joel Tomei's music, Adoration of the Divine Mother, a canto from Savitri, Traveler of the Worlds, at New York Butoh Institute Festival at Theater for the New City. Later that month, at the American Dance Guild Festival at Ailey Citigroup Theater, she performed a new work, Heavy Water, by Gloria McLean. In 2019, both of them toured Japan, performing an expanded version of Heavy Water in Tokyo Daigo Fukuria Maru Memorial Peace Park. In October 2021, Mariko premiered 2 new solo dance films at the Metropolitan Museum in New York City as part of their Balcony Bar from Home series. This event marked her career debut at the Met, although virtually. Created with renowned contemporary composer Stanley Grill, American Landscape and Remembering, American Landscape won the 2022 Telly Awards, silver for cinematography and bronze for general music video. In spring 2022, the rehearsal began for 2 major productions at Trinity Church, Wall Street. Mariko performed Marilyn Green's work, Humankind, in the fall of 2022 and choreographed her solo piece, Ahimsa, and duet piece, Transfiguration, in the spring of 2023 at the site of the extraordinary St. Paul Chapel. Let's welcome Mariko to the show. Hi, Mariko, sorry. I will get this right. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Pleasure to be here.
We're excited to hear about, you've been a busy woman. You've been up to a lot of things here. So let's jump right in. And why don't you tell us how your journey began to becoming a dancer and a choreographer? Did you start at a young age or this happened later? Where did it all begin for you?
Okay. So dancers normally start like age 3 or 5, but I didn't start dancing age 3, 5. But I was acting. When I was a teenager, I was acting in local theaters in Japan. And I was into psychology, human psychology, and the theater is kind of married couple. And one day, a producer of some production sent me to the workshop taught by Akira Kasai, and that was a Butoh and contemporary dance workshop. And I had no idea that workshop was going to be. And I jumped in and I immediately got it. All my senses said, yes, I want to be able to do what this teacher is talking about. So so that moment, I think I unknowingly I was starting to be um, wanting to be a dancer,
Beautiful.
if you will.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you didn't train at a younger age. You just, that's great. Yeah, beautiful.
That was like, yeah, 19. So yeah.
Yes. That's good to hear because I think a lot of people think if you don't start at a young age, you will never be a dancer. And again, it
Right.
depends on what kind of dance you want to do. I think for some types of dance, being a little bit older is probably a good idea. But so I want to talk about Butoh. I've seen some videos and I find it fascinating. This is something that really moves me. So I'm very curious to hear about Butoh, what, it was obviously it was this workshop that you did, but what drew you to Butoh? You went on with it after your experience. So what was it that was so attractive? Maybe you should actually explain a little bit about what Butoh is, because there's probably a
Okay.
lot of
Yeah.
people that don't know what that is. So maybe you can start there.
Okay. So Butoh, Japanese Butoh was founded by three masters: Kazuo Ono, Akira Kasai, and Akira Kasai became my teacher. Happened to be my first dance teacher, Butoh teacher. And so Butoh was mainly developed by the choreographer and artist Tatsumi Hijikata in late 50s. In 1959, he collaborated with the Japanese author Mish- Mishima Yukio. Mishima in English, right? Mishima Yukio. And, and that was a very avant-garde art at that time. And like people from United States or Europe, they explained that that must be the reaction of World War II, a reaction um, against Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because the Hijikata's bodily expression avant-garde and even dark, and he did this weakened body expression. So it was completely opposite of the Western style dances, the straight, tall, long appearance. Although my teacher Akira Kasai always teaches dancers bright to be bright and to bring something good to the world. So I think my style of dance is not dark, and looking around world in today, there are so many dark things happening. So I think it's important to bring light into the world.
For me, the Butoh that I've seen, I wouldn't describe it as dark so much as deep. Like you
Mm,
feel a lot of emotion, you feel a lot of depth of the movement, and it could be dark, it could be grief or something like that, something heavy. But that's what fascinates me, is like the depth of the
mm,
emotion Can you speak about that a little bit? Because there seems to be little movement and lots of emotion. So how does one go about
Emotion.
doing that?
Okay. It, the most important thing is not to do thing, not to do your drama, not to do your grief work through dance or through through the process of making dance or showing your dance. You don't show your grief work, and even um, yeah, the process of choreography. Um, the training of Butoh that I think it's beneficial to all the is to become an empty ball, empty container, like Zen, Japanese Zen philosophy. Become an empty container, and then let the emotion come to your body, and then let the emotion move your body. So what moves you is far more important than what you think you do and how you tell the story, and so on.
So how do you do that? I mean, so first you're going to become this empty container, but what are you filling with? You said you're connecting to the emotion, so you kind of going out and connecting to the universal mind, or where, if it's not something personal, then where is this coming from? What are you connecting to?
Um, the first step is to be still and quiet inside. Not easy.
No. No, it really isn't. And tell anybody to do that that's a dancer, and it's like, no, I can't.
um, I feel as if when I am in the zone, I'm quiet inside and still and wait. Um, dancers focus physically, right? It's not like thinking. When we dance, when we focus, it's so physical. Becoming so aware of breathing and the muscles, movement of muscles and bones, and then the weight, and even um, the space in front of me and behind me and the thighs, and then consciousness that you feel as if penetrating a long line in the center of your body, penetrating to the ground, and
Are there exercises that you do
yeah.
to do that emptying? Because it seems to me that's probably the hardest part, is to really
Mm.
do that, really connect to the body, to really be quiet, to become that vessel. So is that part of the training, to really deeply go into how do we empty out?
Yes. Well, and I've been practicing yoga for about 20 years, and that helps tremendously. So, okay, so how to be quiet inside, and then if you are so emotional and be, find yourself in drama, and then I I go to the gym, or I do my practice, yoga practice, and just move my body physically, and then sit, and yeah, and then I sit down and focus on my breathing, and so, and after you move, it the weight of your body falls into one place, and you become more comfortable. You are able to sit with ease, if that makes sense. And then focus on my breathing and let go. And then as if like I my mind and okay, draw the file of happiness or draw the file of sadness. And then it's like the emotion is imprinted. Um, Yoga talks about the memory that is like when we experience something, um, our mind is like having 360 camera, and so that's our memory. So we don't know it. No, we don't have that 360 memory. But I believe that we can access to that um, documentary film almost, which is okay, which is personal. Though that state of being, you are almost removed, and having yourself around here and seeing that documentary film, your personal thing. Does that make sense?
It does. And I understand that it's very difficult to explain it because it is a very, first of all, it's an embodied thing, but it's also a disembodied thing in the sense that you're outside of yourself. So I can see that it would be difficult to explain. But when you're training, like when you trained with these masters, how did they train you? Did they give you specific exercises like to help you empty out, or they took you through the process? What were the stages? I'm just very curious for myself
Yes,
because
yes.
I feel so much depth with this that I'm curious as to how one reaches that.
Yes, Akira Kasai, my teacher, trains dancers. Um, he says become a become the third person, she or he, and then look at yourself. So imagine again you are around here, and then looking at you. um, so he says there are two ways to dance. One, I dance. I am dancing. Two, that is dancing through me. What city is dancing through me. A music is dancing through me. Or happiness is dancing inside of me. Or sadness is pulling me down. Mm. It's it's really that the yeah, becoming the third person and look at your experience or somebody else's experience. It's like
But then you're trying to
the yeah.
emote the experience, right? Because you, as you said before, you don't want to sort of imitate a dance. You want to be the dance. So then I think
Mm,
that must mean that it's somehow coming out of you instead of that, what does this look like? It must be more, what does this feel like? Or right? Or I mean, you're talking about being the third person, but it sounds like whatever it is needs to come through rather than
mm, mm.
sort of be observed.
So looking at physiology, there is a state of being when you are happy or when you are sad or when you are angry, the state of being. So, dance as a dancer, you want to draw, sketch all the time. When I'm feeling happy, but there are many different types of happiness, joy. how is it, what is happening inside of me, what is the muscles and the bones and uh, facial expression, is it feeling lighter or feeling heavier, or um, being so aware of surroundings, of being so sensitive about very small sound, or shut down and then just I don't notice anything. I don't want to look at anything or hear. I don't want to hear anything. Um, that that state of being, a little different from drama. It's physical, and
Hmm.
it's the so that is like a sculpture of um, being sculpt, sculpture of that moment, that
Yes.
what is happening. Yeah.
So when you're choreographing a Butoh piece, what are you doing? How, I mean, are you starting like with a concept, an emotion, a story? What is it that you're trying to do? Because obviously it's very much connected to an emotion, and what does that emotion bring? So where is this coming from? Where are the pieces coming from? How are they developed in a Butoh
Okay.
choreography?
Choreography. Well, I am trained in theater and modern dance as well, so I'm quite a mixture of everything. So when I choreograph the piece, um, the theater part, it is really helping to build a structure, to tell a story or to tell the theme of the piece. It depends on each project, and I often work with a music composer. So I work with them. I ask them their vision and their mission, and the message that we want to deliver. Choreograph my dance part. Yes, I build a story or scenes, and then eliminate excess things, and boil it down to really um, able to show the essential part of it. Um, I think in this way I can communicate with audience better.
That's beautiful. And I think that's really interesting that you are deleting rather than adding to, because that tends to be what happens, I think, with choreography, is that it just gets bigger and bigger as opposed to getting more distilled, maybe, or something. So that's very interesting that it's a whole different direction of movement, kind of. Yeah. You mentioned Rudolf
Yeah.
Steiner. I would like
Mm.
to know more about that. You said Akira Kasai was influenced by Rudolf Steiner. What's the connection there?
Okay, so my teacher Akira Kasai is pretty much a pioneer of Steiner education. When he was in his 40s, he went to Germany and studied Steiner's
Wow.
philosophy, and he brought it back to Japan. And then he he teaches Steiner's eurythmy, and he established this training for dancers, and he calls it Ephesus dance technique. Um, and um, I remember I did a lot of improvisation, a lot of improvisation. Um, I but Steiner also, and Akira Kasai, so so um, open-minded and loving and kind and believing in the um, um, potential of body. That body is beyond muscles and bones and blood vessels and we have consciousness. We have spatial sense. What if you listen to really, really, really small sound happening in the far corner of your room, and your outside showing changes? And um, it like when you meet someone who's so believing in you in general, then it really opens up your sense. And I think that is what I was feeling in the very first workshop.
It
Yeah.
sounds like both of them were working with that interconnectedness between body and consciousness, and how
Yes.
consciousness is a vehicle for, or body, the body is a vehicle for consciousness. And that's very interesting. Yes.
Mm, 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 mm.
So how does consciousness sculpt dance? What is there a process that the consciousness comes in and begins to move the dancer, or what's the relationship there between the two?
Okay, so the consciousness sculpts body, it sculpts dance. If you are so busy doing your idea, doing your drama, and then you cannot yourself. Though, if you just let them go, I know it's difficult, but become an empty container. And then, let's say, just go to listen to the tiny, tiny sound happening in the. He said that go to listen to the sound and the end of the universe. So it's the imagination is like beyond our imagination. How do you imagine? But when you are asked to do that, you are like, oh my God, I don't know how to. And then, okay, but do it, do it, do it. Imagine the end of the universe. And that moment, it's really wonderful. You can go beyond your imagination. That's how almost you can break through. And really important when uh, you become calm inside and listen really carefully. The space around you changes, and the people can see that, right? If I'm not listening, or busy in about myself, or I'm in my drama, and then I look closed and not communicated. But when I let that go and just use my spatial sense and becoming aware of the space above me and right side and left side and behind, and then just doing that, the it's again physiology. It changes the physical structure. consciousness sculpts a body.
And I'm sure as human beings, we are able to pick up on those things when you do that, when you expand yourself out into this space around you. I'm sure that the people, although not consciously, the people watching you must perceive that on some level, that spaciousness or whatever you want to call it, light even, or whatever it is that's exuding beyond you. And that's so curious because, again, in Western culture, you want to be able to prove and quantify everything, and you can't. At least not right now. We probably can't do that. So that's very interesting to think about that, and to think about yourself as a dancer. I've never thought, this is new to me. I've never thought about that, about moving myself into the space. I'm very conscious of becoming a vessel, but then I've never thought of sort of going the other way and trying to expand myself into the space around me and what that might look like. I think probably I radiate something when I'm dancing, but I'm not sure I was ever conscious about actually just trying to expand myself into the space around me. And that must be very interesting to watch somebody do that.
And of course, when I choreograph a piece, I use both sides, being inside, being closed, and being. And I was born and raised in Japan, and Japanese culture is based on Zen Buddhism. So in Zen, it talks about introspective approach and the consciousness and intuition, becoming so aware of surroundings, becoming so sensitive about the space. Yes, it helped a lot.
Yeah. And it
As a
takes dance
Japanese
to a whole new
person.
level too. Because we aren't, like, again, I mean, traditionally we're not taught to think about the space around us, except in the sense of maybe how close are you to the next person. But I don't think you're ever taught to use the space around you. And that is a whole nother, that's almost like another organ, like using your arms or legs. You
Yes.
actually can use that space around you. So that's really interesting. Yeah. Well, you give me a lot to think about here. Can you see
can
the wheels
activate.
turning?
Right. You can activate the space in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually dance with the space.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
you feel so connected to the space.
Let's talk about
And also, yeah.
your choreography a little bit, but finish your thought, and then we'll go into your choreography.
Okay, so also you can put the idea of time. You can just say there's a past, the past. It's not your past, but the past behind you, and there's the future in front of you, and future is calling you, and then you walk into the future, and everything is new, everything is so bright, and I'm walking into the future, and I'm walking into the past, and again, it's not your past, so it's not like you remembering your this and that, but it's uh, the past. And then I feel it's a little dimmer, no nostalgic, and knowing. I know. I've been there. I was there. I was there. So um, you can do this walking into the past and walking into the future, and you can add the light, dimming light, and light fades in, and then it becomes brighter and brighter and brighter, and that itself changes your body, and then that itself is a choreography. Mm.
Yes, and it's also a wonderful mental exercise or realization exercise, I think,
Mm.
to watch your body change as you're moving the
Mm.
direction, or as you're moving in the direction in a time reference, planting that as the seed or the idea of what you're doing, and then observing how your body changes or how your movements change, whether you're moving forward or backward. That's
Mm.
very cool. Yeah.
Mm.
So let's talk about your choreography. How do you
Mm.
approach collaborating? So you've done a whole lot of collaborating. So how do you do that? How do you find composers or visual artists? What are you looking for? Or how does this come about?
Okay, so recently I music composer Stanley Grill, and Stanley brought this big piece called Ahimsa. Ahimsa is the Gandhi's or yogic philosophy. Ahimsa means non-violence. So whenever I work with music composers, I ask a lot of questions, phone or Zoom, FaceTime. I ask about their vision, mission, ideas, um, stories, their personal stories if they share with me. Um, and this time about the piece Ahimsa, I watched a lot of the human rights movements, including Gandhi, Martin Luther King, John Lennon. And then his music piece was about those three historic figures. And for Ahimsa, I tried to tell a story because I thought it was important to introduce those three historic figures. And of course, the essential part was nonviolence. Now, Gandhi said, truth is God. And Gandhi is the truth. And then, and again, when you imagine truth with capital T, it's beyond our imagination. And I had to read a lot and um, think a lot. I had to think a lot, and um, it, but 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 I found that so if um, if you think essential to everybody, every human beings around the world. For example, when you lose someone, it's really painful. Grief, it's really painful. Or mm, if you see a child, if you, it's I think it's natural to feel. I mean, especially women, care that um that those universal emotions and universal thinkings that we share, that I think through that I think I can communicate with audience members and communicate with many people. And um, maybe this is a little outside of fantasy. Is I really think it's important. Um, if you stop imagining, or if you stop, um, if you become so materialistic, and then I think at the end of the day, people start war, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The yeah, the imagination is our wonderful function sense as a human being. We imagine someone else's pain. We can imagine. We cannot feel exactly what they are feeling, but we can imagine, and we can imagine um, how others feel. I think that is so important to bring this world into peace. Um, so that is of my choreography, these universal feelings that we can share and we can relate, and the imagination.
That's beautiful. And I think you're right. And I think as creative people, or people who are creative, the imagination is a huge thing. And I think there are people who have shut that down, maybe from
Mm,
programming or whatever. And I
mhm.
think that's why very often artists are the revolutionaries, because we still have the ability to imagine. And I agree with you. I think that that is something that's hugely important, something that should be encouraged in children to imagine rather
Yeah,
than to shut it down. Because if we stop doing
yeah,
that, then we've created a world that's completely based on things that we already know.
right.
And that's problematic. So so yeah, I agree with you. And if you can convey that through a piece of dance or some kind of art, that would be amazing, because I think that is a message that needs to go out, and something that needs to really be we need to work on that a bit.
Yeah, yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
How do you use sacred space in your concepts, in your work as a choreographer? Is that something that you're trying to incorporate in bringing these ideas forward?
Okay, so again, I was born and raised in Japan, and in Japan, almost every corner of your neighborhood, and if you leave house and walk 15 minutes, you'll see the temple. So it's surrounded by sacred space. And we have several kinds of sacred dance performed in shrine, performed in temple. We have uh, a style of dance called kagura. We have a female dancer called miko, dancing in the shrine. Japanese no theater is an offering to um, God, if you will, or universal loving kindness, or the things that it's um, letting us live, water and fire and all the elements in the universe. We Japanese also call that God, like anime. So dance to me has been always incorporated with a sense of appreciation and the sense of connection. Um, and I think our bodies are also sacred. Um,
But how do you use sacred space? Are you trying to dance in a sacred space? Are you trying to create a space that's sacred that then you dance in? Or is the dance you're doing enlivening and making that space sacred?
okay. I think through dance, we can create sacred space. I create a sacred space with audience members. We create together, being authentic and by using imagination, um, being even vulnerable. I think we create sacred space, and if that goes well, that's going to be unforgettable show.
That's what you're aiming for. Uh-huh.
Yes.
So what are you hoping when somebody comes to one of your performances? What are you hoping that they're going to take away, some a feeling, or what are you hoping that they're going to get out of this performance?
um, I would love them to imagine, remember the fantasy, remember fantasy, and remember how um, restoring yourself when you imagine something beyond, when you imagine universe or um, the end of the universe or a bright world that you cannot imagine, but just start to imagine. That's the small breakthrough, and I think we have innate sense of the peace within, so we can start using intuition to renew yourself and refresh yourself. Becomes so much fun. But right, like to deliver, to share joy of moment. That's dance. That's the performing art.
Yes.
Yeah. And it doesn't, the joy doesn't have to be always um blockbuster movie. And
Yeah. It can
yeah.
just be a moment in time. Yes.
Mm,
That's beautiful.
profound. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for all your insights. As I said, you've given me a lot to think about. So I need to go and digest all of this and definitely try some of these things that you've suggested, because I feel that they are very experiential, and I hope that the listeners will try them as well. So if people want to connect with you or get in touch with you or know more about your work, what's the best way to do that? Through your website?
The best way is to visit my website.
Okay. And that's
Okay.
www dot Mariko Endo, MarikoEndo.com. And you can find out more about what she's doing and connect with her through that if you want to learn more. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here
Thank
and
you, Leslie.
sharing with us. And definitely to go out and watch some of the pieces. Do you have a YouTube channel, or what's the best way? Maybe just to Google search
Yes, and
for the
all
pieces.
the videos are on my website also.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
So take advantage of that, and watch some of those pieces. They're quite beautiful. So thank you. Thank you again for being here, and the best of luck with your work in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And thank you to the listeners for being here. That was, I hope you will take away some of that experiential, those suggestions. I think that would be very interesting to play with those concepts and see how you can fill the space around you and enliven that, and also that moving into the future and into the past. I think those could be interesting things to try. Well, thank you for being here, and I hope you'll be with us next month. If you want to find out more about what I'm doing, you can go to my website, universaldancer.com. And also, I have a very beginner course in sacred dance, which is Dance as a Spiritual Practice. It's an online foundation course, and you can find that at universaldancer.thinkific.com. And I hope that you will be with us again next month when I bring you another guest. All right, until then, thank you for being here. Bye-bye.